All the Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback today, y'all. We are looking at Marvel Team Up issue number 10. The release date was March of 1973 for this issue, and the cover date is June of 1973. And today we have Spider-Man teaming up with the Human Torch as we are continuing this storyline where Kang the Conqueror is the main villain, and he is going up against another villain, one of his rivals, the Tomorrow Man, that we had just met last issue. If you, by chance, have not seen last issue's video, go back and look at that one, and because I covered Marvel Team Up number 9. So now we're looking at Marvel Team Up number 10, and today's title is Time Bomb. Time Bomb. And we got to give credit where credit is due. We have Jerry Conway on the writing for this issue. And by the way, rest in peace to Jerry Conway, who just passed away last week. An amazing writer. I mean, just contributed so much to the Marvel Universe. So may he rest in peace. His work will always be remembered. And then we have Jim Mooney right here on the artwork. Frank Giacoa on the inking. We have C. Jeter on the lettering, Stan G on the coloring, and Roy Thomas as the editor. And so last issue we had come across this guy named Zarko, and he is from the 41st century. And he had tricked Iron Man and Spider-Man into thinking that he was their ally to defeat Kang, because Kang had kidnapped all of the Avengers members. But you see, he had actually tricked them, because Zarko at this point is holding Kang up at gunpoint because he has all of the weapon and all of the great things that he needs to at his disposal to defeat Kang and rule the 20th century. He says, "Need I point out, I already have, just as you have defeated our mutual enemies, including that accursed interloper Spider-Man. Neither you nor anyone else can hope to stop me, Kang. Soon the weapons I need to conquer not only my time, but your own, will be mine. For even as we speak, 3 capsules of my own devising speed backward in time, back to the era of the Great Wars, the last third of the 20th century. So basically, they're heading back to 1973, where they will strike and emit a form of coronal radiation that will transform the world about them, changing massive sea-going vessels into waterlogged anachronisms, transforming sophisticated societies into primitive anarchies. In effect, reversing the progress of time, turning it back upon itself like a dammed river. Within hours of their landing, my capsules will have returned the 20th century to the Stone Age." So yes, these 3 time capsules are going back in time to 1973. And once they land, then we're going to see a regression in society. All of society is going to regress. The weapons, the technology is all going to go back to the Stone Age little by little. And so Zarko, as he continues to tell Kang about his plans, he says, "Think, fool, why did you conquer my era so quickly? Because we were defenseless. Because all weapons had been outlawed decades ago. Not so the 20th century. That was the age of nuclear terror. And it is that age I shall plunder." So Zarko plans to plunder and rule the 20th century as the 20th century is plunged back to the Stone Age. And it looks like Kang is left without any words. He is just speechless here, because Zarko has outwitted and outsmarted Kang the Conqueror. Well, we notice here that Spider-Man and Iron Man are finally recovering from the ray blast that had come from Kang the Conqueror last issue. At the end of the issue, Spider-Man is whispering to Iron Man, saying, "Hey, I think the rays are wearing off. Let's try to tackle these bozos." But Iron Man says he's still out for the duration. His mind and body is okay, but the blast have ruined his power plant, his armor's power plant, so he can't move. So it's up to Spider-Man to go get help and try to find a way to return to the 20th century, because right now they are not in the 20th century. So Iron Man is out for the count. Spider-Man comes across this time portal. He says, oh, bingo, this is where I need to go. So he goes to this time platform, and he's like, I hope a fourth-year science major is going to be able to figure out how to use this time machine. So he uses Kang's time machine, and he sets the date for February 14th, 1973. Pushes down a button, and off he goes. And hopefully he's not going to land in the New York Harbor, because that would be pretty bad. So we see Kang is helpless. He seems helpless here. He says, Zarko, like all men of your era, you are an egoist and an imbecile. You think your puny plans can affect me? I, whose power stretches across the span of 15 centuries? But then, as they are speaking, Kang the Conqueror is shocked. He is suddenly frozen in fear, and we are going to have to find out who he is seeing in the next issue. So we leave off on a little cliffhanger here, because this is the last time you'll see Kang and Zarko in this issue. So Spider-Man returns to the 20th century, and he just so happens to land in the headquarters of the Fantastic Four. And all the alarms start going off. Johnny Storm is on the intercom here, and he notices that there was no real true threat. It's just the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and Human Torch and Spider-Man are pretty good pals. If you've been keeping up with this series so far, the Human Torch has teamed up with Spider-Man on a number of occasions. So Spider-Man kind of spills the tea, just explains to the Human Torch everything that's going on with Kang and Zarko's plan to send out these three vessels that are going to regress time. And he needs to, recruit some manpower, and I think the Human Torch would be a perfect candidate to help Spider-Man. So the Human Torch agrees, and they're going to go to these separate areas of the world. Human Torch is going to go to Japan. Spider-Man is going to swing off and make it to South America, specifically Venezuela, and then they need to get to Greece. So those are the three locations that these time vessels are going towards. So first we see the Human Torch. He gets a quick trip on the JFK International, takes a quick jet, and flies to Japan, and he just starts waiting to see what happens. And lo and behold, this train begins to regress, and it looks like an older part of a train that's from the earlier 20th century, and then samurai start popping up out of nowhere. So yes, time is starting to regress as the world about them is changing. You see the cars changing, people are changing, the landscape itself is changing in Japan, and the Human Torch has to figure out how to stop the radiation from continuing. And so he needs to locate this vessel. He almost gets shot by a shotgun here. Thankfully, the Human Torch is able to stop it, but then this guy transforms into a samurai, and he's going to have to dodge the samurai sword. Samurai seems to have been able to fight against the Human Torch, but as you know, the Human Torch has powers, so he is able to defeat this lone samurai. Finally, he comes across that time bomb, and he is going to then be succumb to these rays here. So the Human Torch has to do something very quickly, or he too is going to lose his memories, and he's going to not be of any help. So 1 hour later, we see Spider-Man is on this jet heading to south in Venezuela. He jumps out of the plane. Thankfully, he had enough air supply, thousands of feet up in the air to get to Venezuela. And he notices the changes are starting to take place with that jet. The jet starts to change. And Spider-Man is now in Venezuela, and he's noticing people are starting to change. The buildings are starting to change. And so he comes across all these Latinos here, the Venezuelans, and they start attacking him. And he makes good work out of them, webs them up, finally comes across that time bomb. But he's also starting to feel these effects as his mind is starting to whirl. He's feeling kind of woozy. But thankfully, that time bomb is then just destroyed by a huge flame here, and that's the flame of the Human Torch. The Human Torch is to the rescue just at the nick of time here. He says, until I managed to pull myself together long enough to try a thermal blast, I was up to Nova heat before I got any results. And you've already seen those? It didn't take much to figure you'd be having similar problems, so I hitched a ride on the friendly skies to get here as fast as possible, just in time too. So now, the Human Torch and Spider-Man need to make it to Greece before things get any worse. They've already eliminated 2 of the time bombs, but there's 1 remaining. So the Human Torch and Spider-Man jump into this plane. It starts to transform back to its mechanical, technological self of the modern day, 1973. And they are able to make it in the nick of time before the effects of that plane just are eliminated. Spider-Man saves himself with a web parachute. The Human Torch is able to fly. And they come across these ancient Greece, these ancient men who have swords. They look like they're from ancient Greece because of the time radiation that's already come into effect in that area. So Spider-Man and Human Torch make quick work of these guys as well. And Human Torch is just about to destroy the last remaining time bomb when Spider-Man prevents him from doing so. The Human Torch is like, are you out of your mind? What have you done? Why won't you let me destroy it? And Spider-Man's like, because we need to have that bomb so we can track down Kang the Conqueror and stop him. This is the only evidence we have so we can locate Kang the Conqueror. So Spider-Man slows the effects of the time bomb by webbing up the nozzle on the time bomb. Well, Human Torch relays some facts here to Spider-Man that the only really help that Spider-Man can find is the Inhumans. They are the perfect candidates, and they have the know-how on how to reach Kang the Conqueror. And that's who Spider-Man needs to go and find next. But the Human Torch is going to race off and make it back to New York City because he does not want to come into contact with one of the Inhumans, and that is Crystal, because he and Crystal used to have a romantic relationship. They are no longer in a relationship. It would bring up bad memories. So Spider-Man is left on his own. He is going to have to find a way to contact the Inhumans so that he can go back and save Iron Man and the rest of the Avengers from Kang the Conqueror. So that is where we are going to leave off here. We're leaving off on kind of a cliffhanger. We're going to find out what happens next in issue number 11 as Spider-Man will team up with the Inhumans.